So, Steve, first one's in the books. We're now on number 2. For everyone's information, we hit 163 listens. I had a bet with Steve that we wouldn't make 100. He said we would, and we crushed that number. So you win the bet, Steve.
I'll take the money to the bank, Jeff. Oh, wait a minute. What did we wager again? Never mind. That's another topic for a different podcast.
So, we start this off with, what have you been shooting? So, Steve, what have you done in the last week?
Jeff, part of it I can talk about, and the other part I can't talk about. Let me just say that I've been doing some baiting testing for a new product, and hopefully it'll hit the market pretty soon, but there'll be a marketing strategy and some announcements, and I'm really excited about it. So, sorry to keep you in the dark, but hey, that's what they told me I had to do if I wanted to try it out.
Well, we're going to look forward to hearing what that is, and I'm sure that if you're involved, it's going to be something we all need.
Absolutely. So, Jeff, what have you been shooting since the last podcast?
Well, I haven't had a chance to shoot much steel, but I went down to Punta Gorda Range with the PCC and shot what they call the mini monster match. This was 4 stages of at least 45 rounds, and some of them were upwards of 50. When you put that MBX Mega extension on a Glock 33 round mag and you still don't have to reload, it makes it fun.
Sounds like a good time.
There's a lot of running around, that's for sure. That's what we've been shooting, but we've got our special guest on the line, Zack Jones. So, Zack, what have you been shooting?
Hey, well, first off, thanks for having me. Donna and I just got back, actually this morning, very early, from the Area 5 Steel Challenge match up in Terre Haute, Indiana. And we went up there, had a great weekend. We had over 300 guns complete the match, and great weather, great people, great time. And I shot 2 of my best matches ever, and Donna did well. Those that didn't make it missed out on a really good match.
Well, that's really cool, Zack. Okay, there's been some pictures out on Facebook lately. I just want to know if you fall into that mix. So who drove back, you or Donna? We're all friends here.
Well, we split the driving.
Is that right? Did
Absolutely.
Anybody fall asleep on the way?
Oh, definitely. I slept like a baby as long as I could.
Okay, I'll reach out to Donna separately and see if she's got some pictures she can post for us on Facebook. I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
I was actually going to ask Zack if he shot Donna's PCC this weekend.
Of course I did. Not only did I shoot Donna's PCC, but Heather Martin, whom you guys both know, was having issues with her PCC, and so she actually shot Donna's PCC before Donna has shot her PCC. Eventually, Donna will get around to shooting it.
Well, actually, Zack, that's a really good point, and it's something that is in this community of shooting. And I've done it. I've seen it. I've been a part of it. Steve has. You have. We see somebody with a gun problem, and everybody's ready to come to the table and say, here's my gun, here are my mags. Do you need ammo? Shoot my ammo. We want to see everybody finish. And I don't know if you see that in a lot of other sports. It's a good feeling to have. I saw Steve do it at the Georgia match. Who was it? Arent needed a gun. I did it for Chad Wiley's son at South Carolina. And now you've done it for Andrea Martin. Heather Martin.
Heather.
I'll tell her you said that.
Oh, I'm hopefully
not only that, but there was another kid that was having issues with his PCC. The ammo that he had been running in it for the last 6 months, for some reason, wouldn't cycle it. So I ran up, grabbed a box of my ammo. Another guy went to his car, grabbed a box of ammo. And we were like, okay, stop shooting because you're not going to get through it. Basically shooting one shot, rack the bolt. He became Mr. Single Action, but with a PCC. Turns out that some 147 grain bullets would run in his PCCs. The RO that was running said, here's 300, go shoot the match and bring me what's left.
Oh, that's great.
That's great things that you see, and one of the great things about our sport and the people that participate in it. Everybody's willing to help everybody else out.
So here's something hold on, Steve, for the community that's listening and is going to hopefully go to the podcast page on Facebook, search for Steel Target Paint Podcast. everybody post something there and call out the person that may have helped you at a match and let them know you appreciate it. I'm sure they know, but I want to hear from a lot of people and the help that they get.
Yes, I'm going to have to do it too because I was having issues with my rimfire pistol yesterday, and I was shooting with Heather and Eric. He helped me diagnose the problem, other than the fact that I just suck, which he was more than willing to point out more than once.
That doesn't sound like Eric.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, with friends like that, who needs enemies, right? But no, but I did have some issues, and it turns out that he took a comp off of his gun, said, "Here, finish the match using this one," and so people helping people. That's a great thing to see.
That is great. And what I was going to say earlier, Zach, is, the gun would have run just fine if it was a local match. It had to be a level 3 match where there's issues at. I've had an issue from time to time, over the course of time. These are mechanical devices, and if you don't use preventive maintenance or sometimes something just breaks, well, it's never going to be at that local match when it happens.
Oh, yeah, and it was extremely frustrating for me because we started off on Smoke and Hope, and I had 8-something run, which I know for you guys is slow, but for me that was a great run. And then we get around the pendulum, and the wheels just fell off, and it went downhill from there. And then we get down, and I take it over to the safe table, and the comp's loose. He goes, "Oh, well, that could have caused your problem," so we tightened the comp. Shot another stage, it came loose again, and
Dang.
so we ended up just taking mine off and putting his on, and I still didn't shoot any better, so I can't blame it on the comp.
Well, you can, but
I can. Yeah.
We all sympathize. We've definitely been there before.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this interview. Zack Jones, everybody has seen you at matches if they've been at in a South Carolina match or the Nationals or Worlds, and now in Indiana and numerous other places. I don't know if anybody actually knows what your title is in the Steel Challenge Shooting Association.
Well, that makes two of us, because every time I have to use it, I actually have to go look at the email where Mike gave me the title, and it's National Steel Challenge Program Coordinator, or as I prefer to say, Steel Challenge Flunky.
Gotcha. So I know the story, but I don't know if everybody else knows the story. How did you actually get this position?
Well, when Mike took over as president, I started emailing him because I figured, well, we got a new president, so maybe we can get some things going. Well, first off, let me back up a little bit. I started shooting Steel Challenge, and things just clicked. I shot my first match. I actually started shooting with a revolver. So people thought I was weird for doing that, but I really had a good time doing it. And so I found that I really liked it, and I started shooting more matches, and then Mike got elected, and I started talking to him about issues and things like that. And basically it's one of those squeaky wheel things. I complained enough that he said, "You think you can do something better?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, let's do it." And so, fortunately, Mike has entrusted with me, basically running Steel Challenge. I mean, obviously, as the president of USPSA, he's in charge of everything, and Troy is in charge of all the rules, but the day-to-day upkeep, if you will, for Steel Challenge falls on me.
Well, I will say, as someone who's been shooting it for just over 2 years, we appreciate your efforts and involvement. It has clearly turned into something that I think is bigger than I ever expected.
No, I appreciate that. And that's one of the things I heard a lot in Indiana this weekend. People stopping by when we're between stages and things like that, and saying, thanks for what you're doing. The sport's growing. We love the direction that it's going in. Keep up the good work. Just keep doing what you're doing, and things are going to be good.
I was just going to ask real quick. So, Zach, at what point in time did you get involved with the Palmetto Gun Club and your role at Palmetto Gun Club?
That's where I shot my first steel match. I became a member there and was shooting USPSA matches, which I really sucked at. I still do. And seriously, I never got above C class in USPSA because it's run and gun, and I don't do that well. But standing shoot, I seem to do a little bit better. So, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to make master in 3 divisions. I'm not, GMs like you guys, but that's okay. I'll catch you one day. So I started shooting USPSA matches. Then I saw on the club calendar that they had steel. And so I went there and started shooting it. And then the guy that was the match director had to quit running the matches. And so the current, well, not the current, but the president and secretary at that time said, well, if you will take over running the matches, we'll help you get up to speed with how you do everything and all that. And that lasted about 2 matches. And they said, okay, you know what you're doing. Here, take it. This was still back before practice score even. And so we would write the scores down on a piece of paper, then I'd come home and type them into Easy Steel. And then fortunately, practice score came along and revolutionized scoring. So we've been electronic ever since.
Very
So
cool.
that's what I do, is in addition to traveling around, helping to run matches and things like that, Donna and I run our local club match every month.
Great. Excellent. Well, so, you started out as a shooter. You became the national director, but you've also been a match director at every level. At most of these, you're also the head scorekeeper and responsible for all that. So from your perspective, I'd like to ask you 3 questions with 3 different hats on. And the question is, what makes a good match? So first off, what makes a good match when you're a shooter?
The people that are at the match really make a difference. Sometimes, you go to a match and there's a certain vibe, if you will. Like you go and this one is going to be ultra competitive. And then you go to another one and it's got a more relaxed environment and things like that. I think one of the best compliments I ever got for South Carolina State was, you said, this match feels just like a really big club match. As a match director, which is, I know I'm kind of changing gears here, but as a match director, that's one of my goals, is I want the match at whatever level it is we're shooting to feel like just a big club match. If the match is well organized, things like that as a shooter, that's things that I look forward to.
Excellent. I know my first year at Nationals, I was actually meeting everybody. That was in 2017. And this year, it was like a homecoming. I knew a lot of people, and a lot of people knew me. And you're right, it made it a lot of fun.
And 2017 was my first time I ever served as a Rangemaster. So I kind of wore multiple hats there, doing the stats thing and, running the match as the Rangemaster and things like that. So that was quite a learning experience. It's just one of those things where I feel at home out there on the range with everybody shooting. When I hear that, the steel dinging and things like that, that's music to my ears. The more we hear that, the better. It's funny is every once in a while you'll get it in sync where the squads will finish on time, and then everybody's moving at once, and then there's that calm in the air, and that makes me nervous because when there's no ringing steel, then my first instinct is, okay, what's wrong? But sometimes things just click and it just flows like clockwork.
So for everybody that's out there that does run matches, what have you found to be the biggest challenge and how you get past that as a match director?
Squatting. That's an easy one. The reason I say that is we've tried different things, and we tried it at the World Shoot this year. We ran 10 guns in the morning, and then we tried running 12 guns in the afternoon. And there's something about just adding 2 more guns to the afternoon session that just throws off the timing. So at least for me, in my experience, 10 guns per squad is the magic number. You can do all 8 stages in a 4-hour time block, so that works. And that's the number that, for any match where I have any influence on it, I will highly recommend that they go with 10 guns per squad.
Excellent. Excellent. So now you also do a lot of stats. You've done it on a number of different levels, local, national, iOS or Android. Which one do you like?
Since I own 24, I think it is, 24 iPad minis and at least 3 full-size iPads, I think you could say I'm a iOS guy, which is not to say that there's anything against Android. I started off, and in fact, I just looking now, I've got 16 Nook Simple Touches sitting on the shelf near me. So, I do use both, but if they made something that would have the visibility of the Nook Simple Touch, but the iOS operating system, I would be in heaven. I love the iPads that we use, but battery life and things like that is a problem. That's why I have so many. We run 8 tablets in the morning and then 8 different tablets in the afternoon. While the morning session's going on, I have the afternoon ones sitting on the charger. Then when we flip-flop, I put the morning ones on the charger so they'll be ready to go the next day.
Hey, Jeff, if we could, I'd like to go back to talk a little bit about a well-run match. Zack highlighted, I think, one of the keys, and, I've had the fortunate opportunity to travel around the country, and I've shot several matches, and I really agree with what Zack said. The 10 gun limit, if you're going to do a half-day session, really, it's like a well-oiled machine. Jeff, are there other things that you can think of what makes a well-run match as a match director?
Well, for me, as a shooter and a match director, there's a couple of things that I always strive for. And the first one is the stage is set up correctly. When you get the better shooters who are used to shooting these stages, they know if it's 6 inches high or low or left or right. And I don't want them to think about that. I want them to be able to come to the match and shoot their game and not have to worry about that. So I know for our upcoming match, and based on a recommendation from Zack, we got a laser level, and we're going to shoot every one of the targets to make sure they are at the exact height they need to be. And I know there was an optical illusion at the World Shoot, especially on Outer Limits. The targets looked about 3 foot tall, and they were right where they needed to be. So I think that's one of the big things when I run a match that I like to have is to make sure the stages are set up properly.
Yeah, and let me tell you what, I've gotten a ton of feedback from people about Outer Limits. They're saying, there's no way that was set up right. I said, okay, yeah, you stand back here in the back and you look at it and it looks weird. Now let's go up there and stand in the box and look at it. And usually the light bulb goes on and they go, yeah, okay, you're right. It looks weird back here. Now that I'm up here in the box, it looks right. Indiana was the same way. The plate for speed option, it was literally, you could see the stand and then the plate. You might see a couple or 3 inches of wood. When you stood in the box, it was right. Using the laser level to set the heights really, really does make a big difference.
Yeah, those further out targets, Outer Limits and speed option, and yeah, it's just the grade of the bays. I mean, I think what also happens is you have a lot of people that shoot a lot of local matches, and maybe the time and attention doesn't go into those plate heights relative to the shooter's box, and so it kind of throws them off a little bit. I remember shooting speed option at the 2017 as well as the 2018 U.S. Steel Nationals over here in Conyers, and that plate, you're right, it was just a couple feet off the ground, but when you stood in the box, it was the right height.
Yeah, there's no room to put a hay bale in front of it.
Yep,
because it's
absolutely.
so low.
Yeah.
Yep. And, I get that ranges have issues. I had the same problem out at Palmetto Gun Club. I don't run the same stages in the same bays every month.
Sure.
So, my steel that we set up for the monthly matches isn't set with a laser level. Fortunately, we will be doing major range improvements in the latter half of this year, and part of that will be, once they're done, is going through and marking where each plate goes and things like that. So I will be able to run the same stage in the same bay every month, and once that happens, then I will take the time to go and set all the heights with a laser level. Because it really makes a big difference.
Well, you guys will see it when you come down to the Wyoming club, and we've got a great club, but again, they're covered bays, and we have giant dirt berms in the back of the bay, and for drainage, you have to let the water seep through, and it causes slippage, if you will, on the berms, and that comes down into the bay, and suddenly those 6-foot sticks that worked for pendulum are now 7.5 foot high.
Oh yeah.
So we have to deal with that all the time. So goes to Zach's point with 10 per squad, it's staying on time.
Oh yeah.
If you can, like Zach pointed out, 10-man squads. You do it in 4 hours. You got that 8 to noon, break from noon to 1, 1 to 5, clear the range. You know, if your shooters are shooting a double session and they're out of the range by 5:30, you've probably got some happy shooters.
You're exactly right, Jeff. There's nothing more that takes the fun out of shooting when you're shutting it down and the lights are coming on.
Yeah.
I've had that experience once or twice. You know, for me, when it comes to a well-run match, there's a couple of things. We spend a lot of time and money and effort in traveling to these matches. I really, it's subtle and it may be silly to most people, but if we're paying, you know, $100 per gun or something like that for an entry fee, please provide the food and the water at the stages. Thank you, please. I know, right? It's trivial. The other thing that I would say that makes a not just a good match, but a great match, and I've seen it at U.S. Steel Nationals and one of the Georgia matches where they actually had a volunteer group come out to paint targets for all the shooters. I know there's myself and quite a few other people that shoot all weekend that would spend, you know, whether it's $5 or $25 a session to pay somebody to help paint. That just takes it up to
if
a
you're
whole
offering
different
up
level.
$25 a session, you can hire me. I'll paint your steel for you.
Sounds good.
I got to pay
Sounds
for
good.
travel somehow, you know.
I gotcha.
Well, Steve, that's an excellent segue into something that I don't know if a lot of people realize that are coming to shoot the West Florida Championships at the Wyoming Antelope Club. We have a local shooter who is involved with the Explorers in Hillsborough County, and we are going to have painters at the match.
Oh, that's
great.
fantastic.
And to your point, again, it's Florida, it's hot. We're going to have more than enough water and snacks available free of charge. They won't be at every bay, but there'll be a snack table. And then we're also going to have simple subs, chips, and sodas for lunch for every shooter every day. And again, this, to your point, and I agree, it's the little things that turn that match from a great match into where do I sign up for next year's.
Absolutely. And you know what, Jeff, it's okay as a shooter. It's okay if things aren't perfect, if you have a new match for the first time or a level 2 match, because it does get a little bit more complicated going from a monthly match to, you know, now you're talking about several, you know, 200, 300, 400 guns. It's okay if things aren't perfect. Just us as shooters, all we ask for is to get better. And, you know, there's been some matches out there that I won't name that haven't really been all that good to, you know, the good first year, but you know what? Gone back and things have gotten better and I'll keep coming back. And there's probably one or two out there that got off pretty rough and the next one was pretty rough, and that's why it's tougher to fill those matches. It's just all those things that we talked about, and you know, us as shooters, all we're looking for is some of the basics. You know, we're traveling a lot. Some of us are flying, and some of us are traveling in hotel rooms and match entry fees. We just want a good product and to have fun. So if there's an RO that, you know, from my perspective, if there's an RO that messes up the range commands or something like that and they're volunteer their time, I'm not as critical about that type of thing. Just a friendly reminder and get them back on track. But yeah, you know, it's a volunteer sport, and you know, we're just looking for a product.
Even on outer limits? Just want to make sure.
Oh man, don't make me tell that story. We don't have that kind of time.
Yes, we do, of course, want them to use all of them the correct way and things like that. But what I found is like you said, you know, if they're consistent with their use, then get through and then call the RO aside. You know, when you've got that moment when people are running down to paint or whatever, just say, hey, shooter ready, are you ready? You know, and sometimes like that, you know, just a simple little thing like that you'll hear the next person come up, they might say shooter ready one time, and then the next time they'll start saying, are you ready? And so, you know, little things like that will just match better for all of us, especially if you have, like in Florida, I know you guys got a lot of international competitors that shoot there. So, you know, the proper use of the range commands is really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they don't understand the words necessarily. They know the cadence, just what they're hearing. They don't necessarily know what make ready means, but when they hear those words, it means, oh, I can take my gun out of my holster. So, very good point.
Hey, Zach, since you asked, I'll tell you the quick story. So I think Jeff, was this the first time we were squatted together?
Yes, it was.
So we were at a match, and I won't reveal the match where it happened, but we went through and we shot 7 stages, and we're on our 8th and final stage, and it was outer limits. And Zach, I had shot some pretty decent PCC times before, but, I was rolling. It was just like a freight train. I had probably 5 exceptional stages, and I had 2 really solid ones, and I had a chance to be well under 70. And for what I thought I could win PCC at the match. And we get up there, and there's a lot of pressure in my mind. There's a lot of things going through. Hey, don't screw this up. Hey, don't trip on the box. Hey, is that sun going to be in my eyes? Hey, did I remember to turn the optic all the way up? And, there's just a lot of things going through my head. And so I get up there, get my nerves calmed down a little bit. And the RO, it sounded a little bit faint. Are you ready? Or make ready, and then stand by. And beep. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to shoot about 90%, maybe just tune it up just a little bit. Hey, if I want to go for the W, go for the W. So I hit the first 2 plates, and I was probably more assertive than I've been in a long time going to that second box. And then I hit that box, and I just, bing, ding, ding. I mean, it was really 3 fast shots. In my head, I'm thinking to myself, hey, I'm kind of amped up. Was that? I knew it was below 4 seconds, so was it, a 3.75, or it could have been like a 3.5? I mean, it was great. And so I personally like to hear my times, and so I asked the RO, I said, what was the time? And when I didn't hear anything, I turned around. The guy was probably 10 feet, maybe better behind me, with the timer down the side, and he just stared at me. He was a younger guy. And I said, "Oh, could you tell me what my time was?" And he pulled up the pulled up the timer, and I think he said it was like a 1-2 or something like that. And I said, "Where was your hand at on the timer?" He actually timed me with the timer down by his side, so I had to reshoot. That string. Yeah, it's I pride myself as somebody that has a lot of let's just say self-control, and I stay in character. It's probably the first time at a match I almost came out of character. I was and then I proceeded to shoot, I don't know, it was a 5 or 5.25, and then another 5, and then I had a couple good runs, and I cost me first place. I came in second place, but yeah, it's one of those experiences. You had to chalk it up to had to chalk it up.
Well, as he said, we were on the same squad, and just about after either one of us had shot, you give a little high five, good job. He came off the stage, and I went to the other side of the stage. It was just a safer place to be at that point.
Yeah, it's time to give him some space.
Exactly.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
So, Zach, I think it was about November of 15 when the new classification system was put into place. Is that about right?
Well, I started tracking classification stuff in July of 2016. So, yeah, we started, so going back to November sounds about right.
Okay. So it's almost coming up on 3 years. There has been, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, unprecedented growth in this sport. What do you think is there a reason for, is it the classification system? Is it that more clubs are running it? Is it all of that? What do you think it is?
I think it's a combination of things. Because, if you're not familiar with the old, we'll call it classification system, it was based upon your centerfire handguns only. So those of us that primarily shoot a rimfire or PCC, we didn't have a classification based upon that division. So when we split it out to have classification by division, then we started seeing the growth. Because then your guys that are girls, of course, that shoot rimfire could compare themselves with other rimfire. Those that shot only production were no longer comparing themselves with somebody who shoots open. So I think that as we developed the classification system by division, we started to see the growth, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. It keeps growing and growing every month. Take a guess on what you think is the largest division classification-wise.
I think I know the answer, so Steve, go for a guess.
I would say, wow, the answer is definitely different in the last 3 years, maybe even 4 years. I would say it's a Rimfire division. I'm going to go with Rimfire Rifle Open.
Nope. It's actually limited.
It's limited, yep.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, and I think the reason for that is you take your new shooter that comes there with their Glock or whatever, and they say, okay, well, it's my first match, so okay, if you shoot production, you can only put 10. So why don't you shoot limited, fill to capacity. Next month, when you come back, because we want you to come back, shoot production and put 10 in there.
Right.
And so I think that's one reason why limited is our current largest division.
That's interesting, Zach, because a lot of the major matches, if we just rewind the clock to, I don't know if it's been 5 weeks or so ago at the World Speed Shoot over in Talladega, it was very interesting looking at how many divisions, of the 13 divisions, how they were represented. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think Rimfire Rifle Open was one of the largest, if not the largest, then Rimfire Pistol Open, and then PCC was a big chunk. And I guess my point is that I was surprised to see, single stack limited production open, the amount of shooters that are shooting those divisions have gone down, or it's disproportionately larger, having more of the Rimfire and the rifle shooters.
Well, there's no doubt about it that adding the Rimfire and PCC has contributed to our tremendous growth. But I did run some numbers this afternoon, and like based upon the initial baseline, I'll just recount from what was off the top of my head. Originally, we were like at 50%, 53%, I think it was, or 63. That's what it was. 63% centerfire, only 1% PCC, and then the others were like in the 20s, if I remember correctly. Well, now, almost 3 years later, our centerfire has dropped about 10%. So we're, nationwide, we're about 53% centerfire. PCC has jumped up in the, I think, low 20s, and the others are, make up the difference. So, we have seen some decline in the handgun stuff, but I think what we're also seeing is a lot of people that are shooting multiple divisions at these matches. I mean, technically, you can go to an event and you can participate in 4 different matches. You've got your centerfire pistol match, you've got your PCC match, your rimfire pistol match, and your rimfire rifle match. Why not? If you're going to make the trip to shoot all you can.
Sure, absolutely. That's my motto.
Yep.
I love shooting and then just love doing it. I did have a follow-up question about that, Zach, as we've seen the classifications and the participation in those changes that we've seen over the last couple of years. What do you think, and you and I have talked a little bit about this offline, do you think there will ever be a mandate from USPSA or Steel Challenge to how the prize table distribution works? Because we've seen, just in the last 12 months at the major matches that you've seen across the country, we've had everything from random draw to, I think, U.S. Steel Nationals broke it out into 3 different tables. In the World Speed Shoot, I think, was 3 different tables, for PCC, then Rimfire, and then centerfire. Do you think USPSA or Steel Challenge will ever dictate that, how it looks at, level or tier 2 matches and higher?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I would hope not as a match director, because personally, if there's one thing that I don't like to use the word hate, because I don't hate anything, but if I hated anything, it would be having to solicit for prize tables.
Sure.
Because
yeah.
I just don't like to do that.
Sure.
I mean, we're fortunate this year at South Carolina State we had one, but that's because we had our match basically in Palmetto State Armory's backyard.
Right.
And Chad Wiley said, hey, you want me to put together a prize table? If somebody comes to me and says, you want this? I'm not going to tell them no, but I don't like to go and ask for stuff. So I think it would be short-sighted of us to try and dictate, if you're having this type of match, you need to do this for a prize table, or you need to do that for a prize table. In fact, I had this discussion with some people up in Indiana this weekend. I said, my personal preference for South Carolina State, I like that it has that small club match feel. I said, so I want people to come shoot the match because they want to come for the love of the sport, not for something that they may pick up off of the prize table, be it by order of finish or by random.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree with you, Zach, because I think what ends up happening and what we've seen as well, and it's kind of settled out in the last 2 years that I've been doing this, that, if there's a prize table, the match entry fee is commensurate with if there's a prize table or not. So meaning that I can shoot a tier 2 match, that's a state match, and maybe it's $50 a gun, and there's some sort of random draw, but it's not really a prize table per se. There's other matches that I've shot the first guns $125, and there's some sort of payback. And I think us as competitors, if there's, if it's a higher match fee, well, then we expect more from the match because, Jeff and I talked about this, I don't know, what was that, 2 weeks ago, Jeff?
Yep.
I mean, the shoot and field challenge, okay, well, you've got all 8 bays, take aside practice bays and whatnot. You've got all the steel, you've got the 2x4s, you've got the paint, which Larry helps out a lot of people with. So, from a local match to a tier 2 match, there's not really that much more of an expense. Don't get me wrong, there's some expense associated with ROs and some other, if there's water at the stages and take care of food and all that stuff, I get that. But outside of that, there's not really a different event like USPSA where they're bringing in props or bringing in helicopters or what
Right.
have you.
Yeah. Don't see, like, for example, the way I run the match at PGC or Palmetto is we treat it basically as a big club match when it comes to the accounting. So, I, order the plaques, I order this, I order that, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end of the match, whatever's left the money over gets turned into the club. None of that
Sure.
goes into my pocket for running the match or anything like that. And then we use it to do things to like replace steel or buy 2x4s because every year when we have the match, I start off with brand new 2x4s. There are some expenses, but...
Well, let me ask you this. Steve, really good question about the prize table, but what about for a level 2 or a level 3 if there might be any... I know they have suggestions, but almost more of a mandate on awards.
Great point, great question, Jeff.
Okay, yeah. Okay, now there are certain things where, like your category awards, high senior, high junior, things like that, that we do specifically call out that they're limited to 1 because, that's the way they've always been. And then the other thing, too, talking about prize tables, is how are you going to do it? Okay, because we're a little different in that we normally do stuff. You can either do it random or you can do it by order of finish. Okay, let's take order by finish. Which division would walk in what order? Do you take open and let them walk first? Or do you take carry optics or single stack? Who walks first if you were to do it by division? You certainly couldn't have 13 prize tables for all 13 divisions. So, to me, prize tables is one of the more difficult aspects.
I'm with you, Zach. I have never gone, and I didn't have as great a showing as a lot of people, but I had a really good showing at Worlds, and I walked away with a pretty decent stash of stuff. I got a pair of Hunter's HD gold glasses, which made a nice backup pair, and some berries, bullets, coupons, and a couple of other things. I didn't go to the match in hopes of walking the prize table.
For club match recommendation, basically you can do whatever you want. You don't have to do awards or anything like that. For tier 2 or your state level match, it's 5. Minimum of 5 to recognize a category or a division or a class. And then for your tier 3s, it's 10, which that pretty much mirrors the USPSA handgun limits for each of those for recognition. And then we actually list in there that once you meet the minimum, then the match director and the match staff can decide how they want to do it. Like, for example, Matt Mitchell, when he was still at Shoot GTR down in Gainesville, he would do 5, 7, 9. So if he had 5, he gave a first place. He had 7, he did first and second. 9, first, second, third. I've seen him use a single multiple like 5. So if we have 5, we give first. If we have 10, we give first and second. 15, we do top 3. I'm hoping that Indiana does top 3 for, high senior PCCO, because then I would get a plaque. But, I know that that's one that's limited to 1, so I'm not going to get anything. But, hey, I would take it if I got it.
So, Zach, let's get back to you. Part of the things that Steve and I talked about was, getting him more to the person and not the job. I went and looked. You've shot 11 divisions, 11 of the 13.
Yep.
What's your favorite division to shoot?
Oh, well, if Donna had to tell me that I could have to quit shooting and only shoot one gun, it would be PCC. I would stick with that. I think that's the division that I currently have my highest percentage in. I'm in 92%, I think, in PCC. So if I could only shoot one gun, it would definitely be that. I mean, I love shooting them all, but if I had to only shoot one, or if I had to call one my favorite, it would be PCC.
Well, the good news
Especially
is
now that I have the Lead Star. Man, I love that gun.
Well, the good news is that in this game you can have, it's not like kids, so you can have your least favorite one. So what would that be?
Least favorite would be either, and I'll probably get a bunch of hate mail from people that I know that shoot these divisions, but for me personally, it would either be production or limited, because that's something that you have to shoot with iron sights, and I really suck at iron sights. So that's why I don't shoot any of those. Everything I shoot has an optic, with the exception of PCCI.
Don't you shoot some rimfire rifle iron?
I did, but then when I had issues trying to get peep sights set up on it, I got frustrated and took everything off and threw it in a box and put an optic on it. And so now Donna's got her own 1022 she shoots, and I've got my own, which is good, because when I was cleaning up her gun between stages, I accidentally pulled the extractor out, and so she had to shoot her last 3 stages with my gun at Indiana. And she ended up beating me on 5 to go with it.
Your tactic of slowing her down really hurt you. Is that what you're saying, Zach?
Yeah, it backfired. Here's a borrowed gun. Okay, honey, I'll go ahead and kick your butt with it.
I like it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Love
so
Donna.
You've also been instrumental in helping shape the current rule book.
Yep.
But there's still got to be some. Is there any part of the rule book that if you had a chance, you'd still want to change, and why?
Oh, yeah. My personal rule I don't like for the week, I guess if you could call it that, right now is dealing with flagging. In my opinion, if you're transporting your rimfire rifle or your PCC in a case, flagging it is a redundancy, in my opinion. Because if it's in the case and the case is closed, it's invisible. I don't see why we had to flag it if it's in a case. Now, if it's on a 3-gun cart or anything like that, then sure, I can see why you would want to have it flagged, because, when you're transporting it around from stage to stage. But for me, if it's in a case, I don't think it needs to be flagged. So if I could change one rule, that would be the one I would change.
I've got a follow-up to the rule book. There was a lot of debate out on social media, Zach, here a couple months ago, and I think you know where I'm going with.
Oh, he's going to ask it.
He's going to
do it.
Oh, hang on. Let me check my instant message. Oh, Jeff says don't ask that question, because we want Zach to make sure our
go there.
stats are right.
Now, if there's any one thing that's caused me to smash my head against a desk or a wall or anything like that, it's what we're about to talk about. But go ahead.
I wanted to talk to you about why the sky is blue. No, so
why the sky is blue. Oh, okay. Well, that I can answer.
So let's talk a little bit about outer limits. What's your thoughts on? There's a lot of, everybody of course has an opinion on what the penalty needs to be assessed for not transitioning from box to box and shooting from the center box. Where do you stand, Zach?
Well, I've had long and sometimes heated discussions about this,
Sure.
and I've had short and very blunt discussions with other people about it. But it's one of the things where I don't think that we can go to a single penalty that would apply in every case. It's one of the things where right now, just for those who may not be familiar, the Rangemaster has three possible solutions to this problem. If a competitor asks to not be required to move, the Rangemaster can either assess a standard procedural, which is 3 seconds per string, assess some other arbitrary penalty of his or her choosing, or assess no penalty at all. And I've seen it applied all different ways. At a club match locally, a competitor was shooting their first match, and we happened to be shooting out of limits, and he shot from the center box, and I didn't assess a penalty. It was his first match. He wasn't going to be in the running, and he wasn't a USPSA member, so his scores wouldn't count towards classification, so I didn't see any reason to assess a penalty for him. Generally speaking, though, 2 seconds per string seems to be the accepted penalty. That
Right.
I've talked with a number of competitors that have elected to shoot from the center box only, and that seems to be, a fair penalty, if you will, for not moving. We do have to keep it the way it is and let the Rangemaster have that flexibility, because there could be some extraordinary circumstance where he or she elects to not assess a penalty. If anything, I do think that we need to modify the rules to specify a minimum amount of penalty, because I've heard of some matches where the RM would say, okay, if you shoot from the center box only, I'm only going to assess you a 1 second penalty per string. Well, I don't know anybody that can move from the outer box to the middle box in a second. So if you're a USPSA member and you shoot from the center box only and that time gets turned in for classification, that's going to hurt you in the long run, because you're going to have a faster time on that stage than you're capable of shooting. And so your percentage for your classification, could potentially bump you up to a division that's higher than you're able to shoot at.
Sure. I think, Zach, what I've seen, good friends of, I know Jeff and myself is Vince down in Florida, and he shoots from the center box. And I've had this exact conversation with Vince, and you know what Vince's attitude is? He said, hey, assess me whatever you're going to assess me. I'm out here to have fun, and if you're adding 2 or 3 seconds to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't decrease the amount of fun that I'm having. And so it's a tough situation, and I do think that a penalty does need to be administered. Whether it's fair or right, it's like any other rule change. People are going to have an opinion. So I appreciate you sharing your perspective with us for sure.
Oh yeah, and it's a difficult thing as a Rangemaster to say, okay, this is the penalty that we're going to apply, or that we're not going to apply. At Steel National this year, Vince was there. He shot from the center box, and he did 2 seconds. One of the 3 guys from Sweden, which those are great guys if they happen to be listening. Thanks for coming and shooting with us. One of those guys shot from the center box, and he didn't mind the 2 second penalty. So like I said, 2 seconds seems to be the generally accepted, fair, if you will, penalty. Now, if I could just get them to put that in the rule book, then I'd be happy.
Yeah, I think it'd be very difficult to enforce, because really, like any other sort of classification, you'd have to maybe prorate a penalty for classification. Now I think we're getting a little bit outside of the intent of...
don't even go there, because I tried to calculate that one time. I mean, here, I'll just toss out a couple things real quick that at least I considered. One would be make the standard, you shoot from the center box, and if you move, you get awarded by having a time deduction. But then it's like, okay, let's think about this. We've got 13 divisions, and then we've got how many classes per division? 7. What's 13 times 7? Some really big number. And I don't want to have to calculate that many time bonuses. No,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
Now, I think your concept of what you've got is the possibility of putting in at least a minimum. Like,
Yeah, because like I said, a 1-second penalty is you might as well not give a penalty.
agreed.
Well, I think, at the end of the day, Zach, there is really, in everybody's mind, there's not going to be a right answer, but hey, the rule is what the rule is going to be, and you're active out on social media and these groups where it's brought up, and, as a membership, somebody in the membership, I think it's just important to know that you're listening and that you're considering it, and I don't think that people will ask for anything more than that. Well, maybe 1 or 2 people will, but
Sure. Yeah.
I appreciate it for sure.
Well, it's one of the things where you can't make everybody happy with everything, but if I can make, 90% happy, then I think I've done a pretty good job.
Yep.
I would agree. Well, Zach, thank you for being on. Do you have any questions for us?
I do want to ask one thing, because I know we've been on the podcast for a while. I don't want it to run too long, but let's talk about speed option, because I saw something this weekend. I want to see if you guys have ever seen this. How do you normally shoot the stage?
Steve?
Zach, I shoot that stage 4-3-2-1 stop. So I'm shooting right from the right-hand side, going left, and then I hit the stop plate. I've seen everybody shoot it very, very differently. The other common method that most people see is 4-3-1-2 stop, a little zig to the zag, and there's a handful of folks that I've seen that shoot it 3-4-2-1 stop.
I'll tell you how I've always shot it, and I'll just make it easy. Start on the far right.
Yep.
And shoot left, straight across.
That's great.
Yep.
Okay.
4-3-2-1.
Okay, 4-3-2-1. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
Then I saw a kid this weekend. I was shooting with him yesterday. He was having a great match while I was having a terrible match, so I had the pleasure of watching him. His name's Grant Kunkel or something like that. If I said that wrong, I apologize.
Grant's a great kid.
That kid is amazing. I watched him lay down an 8-second run on that stage yesterday in Rimfire Rifle Open, and then he backed it up with the 831 in Rimfire Rifle Irons. But what he would do is he'd come up off the cone and shoot that close plate and then go to the far right and then work his way back across. And it was amazing to watch. So I think the next time I go set up that stage, I'm going to try that order and see how that does for me. But the thing that told me was that watching him shoot it that way, which was different than anybody else I had seen shoot it that way, all day, was that just because the accepted, if you will, way is to shoot it straight across from right to left, you've got to try each stage yourself and find what works for you.
That's a really good point.
Zach, I'll share a little bit of insight. Grant and I have spent more than a little bit of time working on his Steel Challenge remotely. And, he always asked me about what order should I shoot him in. I said, hey, here's the order that I shoot him in, and see if that works out for you. If it doesn't, find whatever's comfortable, because whatever's comfortable for you, you'll shoot it better 100% of the time, because your mind and your body just acts in a certain way. 5 to go. Some people shoot it 4-3-2-1 and then the stop plate, because they think drawing on that farther target, they're hitting that plate number 4 a lot more consistently. Well, if that's what works for you and you're more consistent, you'll shoot it faster. Grant, overall, I've told him, and then had the opportunity to meet his family at the World Speed Shoot. That young man is so fast. I think I'm going to start taking up golf or something. Once he puts
all of the young guys are so fast. We all need to take up golf. Good Lord, they are quick.
They put 8 stages together. Us old guys, we're out of business.
Yeah.
I told both Cole Busch and Chase Orr that I was going to get one of those big foam fingers, and the next time I saw him, I'm going to poke him in the eye. Because that's about the only way I'm going to beat either one of them.
Yeah,
it's really cool watching a lot of these young kids turn into young adults, and what a lot of people don't see is they're the nicest people out there too. Cole and Chase, you just mentioned, both of those guys are great people, and they just happen to be fantastic shooters. So I'm proud to be able to shoot with those guys for sure.
Cole is human, to be honest with you. He shot nine guns this weekend. 9. That's insane.
Zach, we're talking about the young kids, and we're talking about it getting faster. So the next question coming from that would be, are we going to see any changes in any of the peak times?
Yes, we will see changes. We've done, okay, let me back up just a minute. Per our rules, every year after the World Speed Shooting Championship, we are required to review our current peak stage times and determine if any adjustments need to be made. Now, generally, we adjust downward for the fact that people are shooting the stages faster and things like that. But conversely, we also have the ability to adjust upwards. So in this year's review, we found a couple of stages where no one has ever shot at or below the current peak stage time. So that tells us that we set that one too low. So we're going to bump a couple up and bump some down, but I can't say specifics right now.
Well, everybody that's listening, get out of the range and get faster, because you're going to have to get really fast once these new peak times get instituted.
Yep, and I know you guys are planning on doing a interview with Mike Foley, and I'll let him tell you what all he wants to tell you about it. So, because he's the big man that approved all the changes.
That's great. Well, Zach, I appreciate you being on. Steve, you got any more questions for Zach? I'm all out of them.
No, I don't have a question for Zach, but Jeff, can I tell you a funny little story about Zach Jones?
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
So my parents live over by Charleston, and so I got together with Zach and said, hey, I need some help with outer limits, and, you want to spend a couple hours together. And a lot of people may think that Zach is dry and doesn't have a sense of humor. Well, let me tell you this, Jeff. We set up outer limits, and he's timing me, and my first string was right around 4, and it's just a stage that I had to work on. This is probably, I don't know, Zach, 9 months ago or so? It's been a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But so I get up there, and I think I finally broke into the 3.5, 3.6 range. And then all I hear, I was like, what time was that? And all I hear is this guy laughing. And I'm like, what's going on? And Zach's laughing. I'm like, hey, did I not move from box to box? Did I, miss some targets, or what happened? I said, what's so funny, Zach? He said, Steve, I've never seen somebody take a full day, go from one box to another box, and still shoot under 4 seconds. I know you appreciate the support, right?
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, it's one of the things you had to witness it to get the full effect. Okay, so he's standing there in the left box. He goes bang, bang. And then I swear he does like this casual little stroll and goes from that 6 feet. I swear it took him 5 seconds to go from box to box. Then he shot the last 3, and then he had like a 3:54 time. I'm like, how do you do this stuff? It's crazy.
Okay, I'm going to share this, and this video is on the internet, so I'm not lying. You can find it. We're at the North Florida Championships. Zach's running the timer. Zach wasn't running the timer, but he was on the same squad. I shoot in outer limits. I think I came through like a 394, and I hear, "Nice time, you bastard." So I have experienced.
I wonder who would say something like that.
All right. Well, this has
funny.
been a great interview, Zach. We really appreciate you being on.
Oh, I'm happy to be here and spend the time talking with you guys. Hopefully your listeners will find it somewhat, informative. And if anybody has anything for me, Steel Challenge related, email me at Zack with a K, ZACK at USPSA.org, and I'll do whatever I can to help you out.
Zach, thank you for being on as well, and thank you, and especially Donna, because I know she puts up with you. But thank you for all.
Yeah, she's a saint. To have to deal with me, she's a saint.
She is, for sure.
That's why she got a brand new lead star, and I didn't.
I hear you. But thank you for everything that you've done for the shooting community, because really Steel Challenge would not be where it's at if it wasn't for the time and attention and focus and determination and effort that you've really put into it. And you must be a millionaire because you're traveling to all these matches, but we really appreciate it. You can definitely tell, and it's definitely out on the street, if you will, that if the match is running really smooth, Zach Jones must have had something to do with it. So we appreciate it, Zach.
Well, I definitely appreciate the kind words, and I need to find me a new job that gives me more time off so I can go shoot even more matches, or at least go help out. I really we love doing it. That's why we went up to Indiana, then spent 12 hours driving home last night. We're ready to do it again next weekend.
All right, Steve. Well, that was a great interview. Couple things we always do on these podcasts is we talk about the upcoming matches. I'll take the first three. Of course, August 11th and 12th, we've got the match at my club, the Wyoming Antelope Club, which is the West Florida Steel Championships. 2 weeks later, St. Augustine, Southeast Steel Shooting Championships. Lots of availability still there. And then a week after that is the Area 6 Championships in Volusia. So there's that's 3 matches down here in Florida. I'm going to be at as many as I can make, and I hope to see you there. What do you got?
We've got a couple more that are popping up here on the schedule left and right. We still have that Bonnie and Clyde match down in Texas. That's August 24th. 9/22, we have the East Coast Steel Challenge Championship. On 9/28, we've got the North Carolina State Tar Heel match. On 10/5, we've got the Rimfire World match. There's a couple of other ones that are sprinkled in there. The Kentucky match moved up a couple of months, so that's actually going to be at the end of next month on August 31st. So if you want to stay current with the matches, go to steelchallenge.com. Look for Find Matches. You'll find them out there. And then if you go to rimfirechallenge.org, there's a match calendar set up there so you don't miss any important matches.
So, Steve, you got any tips for our listeners out there?
Jeff, I just want to follow up on the tip we talked about here in the first episode around 5 to go. So we were talking about shooting that third and fourth target and making sure your body unwinds in having the correct feet position. I want to share a little bit more about that because sometimes on the farther targets, especially if they're smaller, depending on the distance, my gun, because I drive the gun so hard, and I'm thinking PCC rifle as an example, is I drive the gun extremely hard, and when I'm getting out to those further shots, sometimes the dot, if I'm shooting an open gun, will bounce around a little bit. And one of the tips that I have, if this has ever happened to any of the listeners when they're shooting some sort of rifle, I put my hand around the fore end of the rifle, and if it's a rimfire rifle open gun, I put my left thumb over the top of the gun to secure it, and then what I do is I gently just put a little bit of pressure by pulling back on the front of the gun, and what happens is when I'm pushing the gun hard and I've got some pressure pulled back towards my shoulder, the gun just stabilizes and the dot stabilizes. And so that's a tip for just not 5 to go, but any station or stage that you're shooting with long targets.
Oh, that'll work for pendulum, for that number 3 plate and accelerator. I mean, those are 18 to 20 yard plates, and cinching that gun and getting a good grip sounds like a good way to go.
And then, my favorite target on my favorite stage, that 35-yard target on speed option, really makes a difference.
Yep, snap that to the target, guns tight in, take that shot, go 1 for 1.
That's right. So, Jeff, do you have any tips you'd like to share?
To me, it's second nature. But I think to a lot of people who shoot, or even the new shooters, or even the old shooters, everybody steps in a box, and they go right to the middle of the box. Now, many of the stages are very symmetric. Pendulum is a good example. But the one that I really try to tell people to stand on the right side of the box is roundabout. And when you stand on the right side of the box, suddenly plates 1 and 2 almost become one plate. And it really allows for 2 quick shots on those 2 plates. And you clear that side, and then you can get to the right side of the stage. And whether you go 3-4 stop or you drive all the way over and go 4-3 stop, it makes for a much faster stage. So next time you're shooting roundabout, stand on that stage in the middle of the box and then move to the right side of the box and see what happens to plates 1 and 2 and give it a shot. And this works for pistol. And I'm not talking about being all the way over to the right, but be as far right as possible so you're comfortable. So the next time you're out there, give it a shot and see what those plates do in your sight picture. And I bet you find you shave off a few hundredths of a second, which in this game could mean the difference between a stage win or even a match win.
Jeff, that's a great tip. Thank you for sharing that with us.
So, Steve, Have there been any products that you've been using lately to work on your guns?
That's a great question, Jeff. There's a lot of product offerings on rangestore.net, and I've been handing out some samples recently because there's one product out there that doesn't get a lot of airtime that really has changed my life when it comes to cleaning my Vortex Optics razor. So there's something out there called, it's listed under cleaning swabs. They're foam tip fiber optic swab. And I think they come in packs of 50, and I think they're $12.50 for 50 of them. And I use one maybe once a week or so. And what it does is this foam tip that you can get the inside crevices of the inside of your optic, so it's not going to scratch your glass, it's not going to wear off any of that protective coating. But sometimes I take a lens cloth, a lens wipe, and I wipe down my optics, but there's always that tough to get or tough to reach area on the inside of the optic, and I use one of these foam swabs just to clean it all up. And boy, it's an outstanding product.
Well, that's fantastic, Steve. You know, having a clean red dot is definitely a key to making sure you're making good shots on the plates. So thanks for that tip. Fantastic. Well, Steve, that's another one for the books. I appreciate Larry allowing us to do this under the moniker of Steel Target Paint. And again, thanks to Zack. And everybody have a great week. And don't forget, one shot, one steel.